Chapter 26. We moved the operation to my room, so Tamrat's roommate wouldn't bother us. I explained everything to Charles, me son, and Niana. That the Phatic Empire had my father as their prisoner, and that we were planning to find him and get him out. Tamrat had been reluctant to take my word for it when I told her that the other humans were on our side, and she'd regarded their apologies with contempt, but in the end she'd been willing to suspend her disbelief. I took a break to pack an overnight bag with at least a couple changes of clothes and some spare underwear, and I told the others to do the same. It was something to do, and it seemed like a good precaution against the interior of the ship getting too rank. I also suggested that they load up on food rations and hydration packets. I had no idea how long this trip was going to take, and we needed to be prepared for anything. Afterward, all we could do was sit quietly until Tamrat was able to hack into the Confederation system and find the location of the Phatic prison where the selection committee was being held. For more than an hour, there was no sound but the soft tapping of her pads against the glossy surface of the holographic keyboard. Then she looked up, smiling. "I got it," she said, then activated the comm feature on her data bracelet. "Oi!" Steve's voice came over the system. "I've got a destination. Are you good on your end?"
"It's like they're asking me to steal their ships. I'm sending you a location right now."
"See you in a few then," she said. She looked up. "Are you guys ready?" If they were half as nervous as I was, they must have been telling the most serious lies of their life, but everybody nodded. Almost everyone, that is.
"Oh, wait just a second. Why are we doing this?"
Niana asked.
"If he wants to go after his father, that's his business, but what's it to us?"
"Because he's gonna go no matter what we do," said me son. "And if he gets killed or captured, then we're done."
"There will be many experience points in it for us if we do as well,"
Charles observed. "Fine," Niana said.
"But I won't like it."
"There's more, too," I said. "I'll explain on the way, but this could basically secure Earth's entry into the Confederation, and its safety from the Fads." When we were all near the door, Tamrat turned to face him. "Every last one of you," she said, "is a total piece of garbage as far as I'm concerned. But Zeke said I could trust you, so I will. But if I think you're even considering betraying him, I'll rip your throat out without a second thought." "Thanks for motivating the troops," I told her. "Let's go find Steve." When we stepped into the hall, Mrs. Price was there, though, waiting for us, her arms folded. "Something's going on with all of you," she said. No," I said. "Why would you think that?"
"4 humans and a cat hanging out."
"We're just chillin'," I offered.
"You all seem to be chilling with overnight bags," she observed. "I don't like it."
"I'm way past caring what you do and don't like," I told her.
"Tamrat, go back to your quarters. The 4 of you, I think you'd better follow me."
I didn't know what to do. We couldn't follow her, and we certainly couldn't get separated from Tamrat. On the other hand, if we ran, Mrs. Price would alert the authorities. Fortunately, me son had a solution that I hadn't thought of. She pivoted to her side, and her right leg shot up, lightning fast. She didn't so much as kick Mrs. Price as smack her in the face with the top of her foot. Mrs. Price lifted off the floor and crashed into the walls, her eyes rolling back, and then she fell limp as a sack of laundry. Me son's face was totally blank, and Tamrat indulged in the smallest and most menacing of all possible smiles. "I'm sure that was satisfying," I said. "But her sudden injury will alert a medical team. We need to get out of here." So, we ran. With public transport, it took almost a quarter hour to reach the docking port where Steve had asked us to meet him. I kept expecting some kind of security to catch us, but if they'd found Mrs. Price, they hadn't awakened her and gotten the details about us yet. It was also possible she hadn't chosen to turn us in. However angry she was, I had no doubt she was steaming. She probably would be reluctant to sink Earth's chances of joining the Confederation just for the pleasure of seeing me son get into trouble. We had to go through a public terminal, sort of like an airport, and then to the docks, housing private ships. They were in what looked like huge warehousing systems of cubicles, stretching more than a mile along the side of the station's lower section, and rising up about 50 levels. And each cube was almost the size of a basketball court. The interior section of each was open, except when a ship was entering or exiting. Then bulkhead doors would close, and an internal plasma field, as a secondary precaution, would seal the chamber before an outer plasma field went down and the bulkhead opened. We passed several signs that announced only beings with legitimate business were permitted on the docking area, but that seemed to represent the extent of security. We traveled to the section Steve had indicated, and then took an open lift 12 levels up to get to the right docking bay. Steve was standing outside, leaning against the wall, arms folded, and looking like he was posing for the cover of Starship Thievery magazine.
Artifact carrier, Steve said. Fast, decent weaponry, excellent shielding. Best of all, the owner's off station on a commercial venture. By the time he finds out about the unauthorized launch and asks the peace officers to investigate, we'll be long gone.
Nice, I said. How'd you find it?
I helped him.
It was Dr. Roop. He emerged from inside the hangar. Given the context, his dark, boxy Confederation suit made him appear almost like a crime lord, albeit one with an unusually long neck. The other humans looked nervous, like they'd been busted. I hadn't told him about Dr. Roop's involvement, because I hadn't been entirely sure I understood it until now. "This is what you wanted all along, isn't it?" I said. "This is why you picked the other randoms. You needed Tamret to get the data, and Steve to steal a ship. Sesix, the Granari, was supposed to help us break in once we got there."
"You'll have to make do without her,"
Dr. Roop said, widening his eyes.
"I wasn't counting on the rest of the human delegation joining you, and I think with all your skills, you should do very well."
"Why didn't you just tell us?" I asked.
"Because if you'd known your father was being held prisoner, you would have wanted to go before you were ready."
"How do you know we're ready now, though?" I asked.
"I don't. I've gambled that you having time to discover what you need to know indicates you are now ready. Waiting for you to discover the truth gave you time to train, learn ship operations, and hopefully gain the skills you need to succeed. I've sent everything we know about the prison and the FATIC security protocols to your data bracelet. I've examined the data extensively, and I believe this is something you can do." "I don't understand," Nyana said. Why are you having us do this? Don't you have trained people to take care of this sort of thing?" "We do, but they won't," Dr. Roop said. "The councils are too timid to risk FATIC anger, but that is your greatest advantage. Where whatever the fads think will happen, the last thing they will expect is a brazen rescue attempt. In the Confederation, we simply don't do that sort of thing, and they know it. But you're kind, you're daring, and reckless, and you've all been training, and I know you can do what needs to be done."
I swallowed hard. We were really going to do this then. It was so insane, so unbelievably stupid. And we were going to do it. "You chose the 3 others after my father was captured, right?"
"Yes."
"And me?"
"He had already tinkered with the system by choosing you," Dr. Roop said. "I was not so much breaking the law as continuing to work with a law that had already been broken."
I had no idea how my father had come to be here on the Confederation. I had no idea why he'd left his family or Earth. So I guess I'd have to ask him when I rescued him.
"He's a good friend,"
Dr. Roop said. His data bracelet beeped and he looked down.
"Apparently, someone assaulted Mrs. Price and the peace officers have been asked to apprehend all of you. Perhaps it's best you be on your way."
I nodded. Dr. Roop awkwardly offered me his hand.
"Your father taught me this."
I shook. "I want to know everything when I get back," I said after a second.
"And I will tell you. We both will."
He leaned forward.
"Before you go, you should level up. We're past the point of being discreet, and you need every advantage you can use.
I nodded. It was sound advice.
Good luck, Zeke,
he said. Then, he left. We headed inside the hangar and towards the artifact carrier. It looked a lot like the shuttle on the outside, and I recognized the configuration of the interior from the many sims I'd run. This would be just like a sim, I told myself. Except we might all get killed. I need a minute to level up before I go, I said to Tamrat. Can you get everyone settled?
Of course,
she said, and began tapping on a data bracelet as she walked into the ship. I checked my numbers. I now had enough points to reach level 16, which meant I had 6 points to assign. I put them all into various piloting track skills. Again, I was tempted to add some points to strength, but I resisted. More than ever, I'd need to make sure my piloting skills were strong. Steve, Temrat, and me-son were great fighters. Making myself a little stronger wouldn't matter. Making myself a little better at the helm might make all the difference, though. So, 2 points went into agility, 2 into intellect, 1 to constitution, and 1 to vision. I'd leveled up before, and it was always kind of disappointing that my new skills didn't make me feel any different. I wanted my heart to race, my senses to come alive. But I'd always felt like the same old me. I knew the added abilities were slight and subtle, but I hoped they'd be enough to help us. When I got on board, Steve had taken the helm. I took navigation. Everyone was ready, strapping in and sitting still, except Tamret, who had her keyboard out and was typing away furiously.
Don't mind me, she said. I can do this while we move.
We shut the ship doors and sealed the inner bulkheads as soon as we were properly depressurized. We opened the outer bulkhead. A message came over the ship's comm from the station traffic server. It appeared, it said, that we were making an unscheduled departure. We didn't answer, though. We simply departed unscheduled. Steve eased the artifact carrier forward, and I watched on the reverse view screens as the station fell away. Just like that, we were gone. In our stolen ship, heading away from the station. I felt a sudden jolt, almost as though we'd tunneled. My senses tingled, and the world instantly felt sharper, more defined, more vivid. I could feel my mind churning, purring like an engine. I wondered if it was the new skill points kicking in, but I doubted it. Even my hearing, which I hadn't touched, seemed improved. I knew it had to be my imagination, or maybe my nerves, but I didn't care. It felt good, and I felt strangely ready to take on this absurdly dangerous mission. So this is what it feels like, I thought. This is what it feels like to be an outlaw. The station's traffic server continued to send inquiries at us, imploring us to return and then asking if we required assistance. Finally, we sent back that we didn't need help, and that seemed to satisfy them. As soon as we reached our regulation distance, we plotted our tunnel and opened an aperture. We dropped out of the universe and were on our way. It would take the better part of 2 days to reach our destination, so there was nothing left to do but wait.